Carrier, and I'm an almost 65-year-old retired educator from Avery County, North Carolina. Just a few more days, and I'll officially be an old person. But I have had issues all of my life. I always hurt in my joints and my muscles. My mother called that growing pains. But when I was born, I had issues with my sinuses that quickly developed into allergies. Then in the 1990s, 1998, I contracted a neuromuscular disorder that's also autoimmune, just as those other things are. But it also affects your muscles and your nerves, and it's called Guillain-Barré syndrome. For those who don't know, it is related briefly to such things as GBS, Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's, but one thing that distinguishes it from others is that it comes on immediately. For me, it was the afternoon of one day I started having continuous running nerve pain from the bottom of my toes all the way to the top of my head, and by the next day after church, my body was like Jell-O. I had no control over it whatsoever, and I was that way. They took them 4 months to figure out what it was I had. I put up with it for 5 years. I was finally to the point where I could pull myself up and use a cane to help drag myself around, and I could not tolerate socks and shoes because of the running nerve pain in my feet. I was that way for 5 years, took a turn for the worse. We began to pray, looking for a new or better answer than what we were already doing, and that's when Relive found us. And since then, my life has completely changed. I no longer need a cane to stand and walk and keep my balance. My allergies are almost non-existent. I can wear socks and shoes whenever I want to. And along the way, I also went from a size 26 to a size 18. So that's a pretty good size weight loss there. And I've had numerous other things that have happened to me that have made my life continuously better and better in a health matter. And because of that, we did get into the business. Joe will be talking about that more in a minute. He's my husband, sitting here beside me. And I have to say that what caused me to really take a second look at the business was the humanitarian leg of Relive called the Calogres Foundation, where we feed children and men and women, too, worldwide daily. And it's a large number. It's over 40,000 people. And to me, it was just so wonderful that we could do something like that, be a part of something like that. And so now I'm going to hand the phone over to Joe and let him talk.
Good evening. This is Joe Carrier, and we do live in the mountains near Newland, North Carolina, a little town. I'm also a retired school teacher, and prior to Relive, I just had issues with acid reflux, blood pressure, and migraines. And then in 2003, the blood work came back that I had very high cholesterol, triglycerides, and I was a type 2 diabetic. I don't do well with medications, so I was able to hold off a little bit on what they expected me to take. And fortunately, during that time, I was introduced to Relive. I went back for a follow-up visit after 2 months, and my blood sugars had come back down to normal. My triglycerides and cholesterol dropped immensely. And I knew I felt better. I had more stamina. I didn't feel like I had to go home and take a nap before I went to my other jobs. And then after about 3 weeks, I noticed I did not have a migraine. I used to have migraines as 2 to 5 times a month or more. I've dealt with that for over 25 years. And I have been migraine-free since my first Relive shake back in 2003. And I always tell people blood work is one thing because it does affect stuff. But when you don't have a migraine anymore, that is very, very significant. In 1997, I had cataract surgery in my left eye, and I was told that I would always have scar tissue. And every year I've gone back, my scar tissue is disappearing, and the cataract that I was not even aware of in my right eye is completely gone. So I'm very grateful for what the products have done. We were not going to do a business. We didn't like the idea of network marketing, but once we started getting results, we felt we had to do the business, and we have not regretted it. We've made income ever since we've done things with Relive. So I'm just so grateful for what the products have done, and I'm grateful that my sister-in-law introduced us to Relive.
That's great. Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate you joining us and sharing some of your testimony with us, some pretty wonderful results. The Guillain-Barré syndrome is a very scary thing that you guys went through, and it's Rebecca, it's wonderful to see that you've been able to get that under control. Thanks so much for being on the call tonight.
Welcome.
Okay, well, we're going to head over to Chicago, and with us tonight is Helen Johnson. So, Helen, we'd love you to come on and share.
Do I push star 7?
No, you're on. You're good.
I'm on. Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Helen Johnson, and I live in the south side of Chicago. My background is in social work. In 2007, I had a terrific experience. 3 o'clock in the morning, I waked up with numbness coming down the left side of my body. As the director of the crisis teams in Chicago, I just called my teams and talked myself out of going to the hospital. Instead, I got up and went to work the next day, working with a death on one team, and just made it a normal day. But before the end of the day, I was dragging that left side. I went on to the beauty shop. The beauty shop lady said to me, look, I'm your friend. Which one of us going to take you to the hospital? You can't go home from here. Well, I finally gave in and said, I'll take myself to the hospital. Called my family, and they met me at the hospital, and it was there that I started thinking about my condition. So much so that, but it was a busy night, and I really didn't want to wait around. A lot of kids running all over the place. So I went and said to the triage nurse, look, I'll come back tomorrow around 11 o'clock in the morning when it's not so busy. She showed me a stack of papers about as tall as a telephone, our old telephone books, and said, ma'am, you have to sign every one of these papers if you leave now. Well, I knew then that it was a serious situation because those were AMA papers. So I said, okay, I'll wait for the doctor. I saw the doctor. The doctor told me I was going through stroking. I said, no, not me. I can't stroke. I walk around the track 3 times every day. And I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. I eat all the right things that make you healthy. He said, well, listen, I'm going to put you through some tests. And after the test, I'll come back and talk to you again. I went through those tests, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, he came back with 8 other doctors. And he said, Ms. Johnson, you haven't had 1 stroke. You've had 3. And if you don't let me treat you, you're going to continue to stroke until you stroke out. Well, that got my attention. I said, okay. Stayed in the hospital 5 days. They put me on 5 different medications. And when they released me with 6 months of physical therapy. Took my medication religiously, went to physical therapy not 1 time a week, but 3. But at the end of that 6 months when the insurance was up, my hand had locked closed on my left side and had locked to my waist on my left side. My left side stayed full, and when I breathed, I just felt, very uncomfortable. And when I walked dragging that side, like I call it the stroke shuffle. So I said, no, I can't, I must have missed it. Something simple. I can't, my health can't be this bad. When all my life I've done everything I could to be healthy. So I started searching, and I started looking around. I read this, I didn't read the book, but I had someone read the book to me, Strokes for Dummies. I really couldn't process words. I didn't understand words when I looked at them. They just looked back at me. I was very disappointed and very hard to get along with. But being a workaholic, I went back to work. And as I went back to work, my staff watched me each day. I finally went to a stroke awareness meeting. A stroke where I met and talked to people who had had more than 1 stroke. I wanted to know what they were doing and how they were getting on with their strokes. When you enter that room, everyone, the first thing the nurse said is, look, if you've had more than one stroke, you're going to stroke again unless you change your lifestyle. Well, that got my attention. My youngest daughter had taken me to that meeting, and I was in a wheelchair when she rolled me in, and had stopped at the cafeteria and got a bowl of macaroni and cheese. So I moved the macaroni and cheese over because she said, change your lifestyle. So I moved it over, and I said, I'm not going to eat that. I'm going to change my lifestyle. At the same time, I got introduced to Relive because the lady that was there during the presentation had had 5 strokes, 5 full strokes. And she was walking around, talking to everybody, passing out her business cards, telling us what a wonderful product she had taken. And I just wasn't convinced. My youngest daughter was, though. And she told me, look, call her, talk to her. Very stubborn I am, and I don't listen to my kids. I think I should be telling them what to do. So I said, call her for what? I've been in the hospital 5 days. I've been on 5 different medications. I've gone through all the physical therapy. What do I need with talking to her? She's doing all right. She's gotten over her stuff. So she said, call her. She called me back for 7 days in a row and said, good morning, Mom. Did you call her yet? I finally called her, and she came over, introduced me to the product. I put up my shield with her and started arguing with her. And she said, listen, what have you got to lose? And I thought about that. Here it is, my mobility is gone. I can't read, I can't write, I can't even hold a correct sentence. What else did I have to lose? So I took the product. I took it twice a day for the first 30 days. And at the end of that 30 days, the heaviness on my left side let up, and my breathing discomfort started to leave. I said, wow, something must be working. Nobody had to tell me to call the second time. I called and got another order of the product and took the product another 60 days. And at the end of that 60 days, my left hand, my each finger had popped loose like it was in the beginning, back to its normal shape. And I could open and close that hand. I could even lift it above my head. I was really feeling like something is really working. So I took the product another 30 days. And at the end of 90 days of taking the product, I could shift my weight from side to side. I could walk heel toe like I learned in physical therapy. And I could even raise my hand and comb my hair. So I said, wow, I'm really feeling good. Somebody played the record. Everybody do the cha-cha-cha, Sam Cooke's record. And I jumped up and got in the line dance and was going 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I said, I'm back. Look at me, I can cha-cha-cha. Of course, my staff said, Miss Johnson is losing it. Which one of us going to write her up? But I was so happy. I was so happy to be back and to have my body again. I owe it all to Relive.
Well, Relive in the good Lord. Helen, thank you. Appreciate you sharing. It's certainly a powerful recovery you've had with your strokes. We appreciate you being on and sharing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
If
All right.
anyone wants my phone number, you can have it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we're heading over to California. What a pleasure. I get to have on tonight Sue Bushell. And Sue, you've had some wonderful results as well, so we'd love you to share.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
I can, Sue. Go right ahead.
Great. Well, I am Susan Bushell from the Sacramento area, actually Roseville, California, and I've been on Relive for 13 years, and when I was introduced to Relive, I was writing my memorial. I just turned 70, but I was 57 at that time, and I had been ill for about 5.5 years with pain all over my body, and because of the pain and the inflammation, my lifetime migraines were exacerbating and becoming even more regular and more intense. And after many doctor appointments, I was finally diagnosed with fibromyalgia and told that the only thing they knew to do for me was medication. And yet those meds were not helping me as it was. And I was on all the different anti-inflammatories that had been on the market. Several of those have been removed from the market because of the serious side effects. I was on Vicodin for pain and medicine for sleeping. But my frustration, Bill, is I was still in pain, inflamed, and not sleeping. So I really wondered where was I going to get help. And I was introduced to Relive. I decided to be faithful, consistent, and patient and hear other people's stories, and I was absolutely amazed what I was hearing. And I faithfully took the shakes, and in 6 weeks, with the blessing of my doctor, I was off the medications I had been on for 5.5 years, and I've never had another migraine in these 13 years. And you only need one of those to know that you don't ever want another one. And just to have had that change in my life is wonderful. And after seeing my results, I chose to take a serious look at the business. And as a result of that, I got started in the business, and it grew very quickly. And I'm just so grateful of what this business has meant to me and giving me financial opportunity and time opportunity. So I will be doing Relive for the rest of my life, and grateful that my friend shared this with me, and I thank her all the time.
There you go. And you just shared the tip of the iceberg. You have a very powerful story. There's a lot of other things. Maybe you could just mention, I know you had some issues with some heel spurs and carpal tunnel. What happened there?
Yes, I did have heel spurs. I would get injections in my feet, and I've never had any problem with that after getting started on Relive. And again, thank you for bringing that reminder to me, because that was so painful. And carpal tunnel and a lack of sleep, and I just sleep really great. And like I say, I just turned 70, and when I look back 13 years ago, I didn't think I was going to hit that year. And so grateful, because I remember crying when I found out I was going to be a grandma, and I thought I won't be able to hold this baby. My arms were just so painful and so sore. And he is now 12 and a half, and since that time we've had 2 more grandkids. So I am grateful for what Relive has meant to me and to my family, and will continue to use it and continue to share with those who are willing to listen.
There you go. As I recall, the meds were impacting your liver. What's happened there?
Yes. When I was on those meds, and the doctor told me that all that they need to do to increase the medication, I had just had a liver biopsy, and it came back elevated high, and it was due to medication. And after being on the products for 6 weeks, and I went back to the doctor and told her I wanted off the medication. I had been cutting back. It basically was self-meds. And I asked her if she would please run another liver panel to see what was going on, and she did, and was absolutely shocked when she looked at it and said, "You've got a happy liver." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" She says, "Your liver count is in the perfect normal range." And she says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, let me tell you." And so that was one of the other benefits of not having to take medication that was affecting my liver. And goodness sakes, I can't imagine what it would be like today.
That's great.
So very grateful.
Powerful results, Sue. I'll give you one little plug, too. I don't have a lot of time, but I just want to let people know that you have a ministry for little girls with dresses. Why don't you give me a 15-second blip? What's happening?
Okay. I learned about Dress a Girl Around the World through Wendy Stokes. When the earthquake happened, some of us were making dresses to be sent over there with the team that had earned a trip. And that was 6 years ago. Around my dining room table, I got started with 6 friends, and we have now made over 18,000 dresses in our area that have been taken to over 40 different countries in people's suitcases. So very blessed by that. And again, that would be something that I probably would not have experienced if it wasn't for Relive.
If people want to find out about that, where do they go, Sue?
They can go to the website, Dress a Girl Around the World, or look at Facebook. And our particular one is Dress a Girl Around the World, Northern California. Love to have people learn more about it.
That's great. Sue, thank you. We thank you and appreciate you for sharing and appreciate what you do in the ministry and just reaching out and helping other people through Relive. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Wow, what a night we have going here. Another gal coming up, Cindy Smith and her husband Brett. their whole family have had some pretty amazing and wonderful things happen. Cindy, we'd love you to share what's happened for you with Relive.
Thanks, Bill. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. We started on the products almost 8 years ago, and the reason was because my youngest son had a sensory processing disorder. He couldn't sit in his chair more than 5 minutes for me to teach him. I'm a homeschooler. I forgot to tell you that. 10 kids. I live in Pinckney, Michigan. And anyway, so while we were homeschooling, he couldn't sit in his chair for more than 5 minutes. He had slurred speech. He would throw rages because he was so frustrated. We got him on the products, and he just started staying in his chair longer and longer and longer. And he was doing his occupational therapy exercises one day, and he just looked at me and he said, "Mom, these exercises don't help me like those shakes do." So I was like, okay, from the mouth babes. He was like 7.5 at the time. And then we decided to put my daughter on it also. She was only 3.5, and we just knew it was the best nutrition to give her, so we tried it. And all of a sudden, she stopped waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning visiting me, which she had been doing like clockwork. And we 2 weeks later, she started popping up again, and my oldest daughter just looked at me, and she's like, "Did you stop giving her shakes?" I'm like, "Oh, I think I have." So, I got her back on the shakes, and then she didn't have any more problems. Listening to calls of other people's stories, realized that she had very many OCD issues, and those have pretty much been eliminated as long as she stays on her shakes. She does good. She doesn't get too bossy. And then my one son, teenage son, he was having a problem with he was vomiting every 6 weeks. And it was quite a long time. I think it was about 2 years that it had been going on off and on. And with 10 kids and just don't pay attention to everything going on, it just seemed like he had a 24-hour flu every time I turned around. So I asked the doctor to check him and found out he had a kidney infection. The doctor gave me some supplements, and he went through 3 bottles, and he just kept having these attacks. And that was like 3 months worth. And I was like, okay, we're going to try something different. So I got a hold of some people with Relive, and someone suggested Fibrostore. So we added that to his shakes, and he hasn't had any more attacks. I've taken him to the doctor and said, okay, can you please check? And they checked, and his kidneys are totally fine. So my other son, he's ADD, and he was having a problem sleeping. He woke up one morning and told me he had a dream. And I said, oh, that's nice. He's like, no, you don't understand, Mom, I don't dream. I'm like, what? You don't dream? And I thought back to when he was younger, he used to pace the floors and check the doors and the windows and make sure no fires weren't breaking out or anything. He was so paranoid about everything. And then he'd sleep on the couch all day when he was supposed to be doing at school. And I was like, what are you doing? Well, then it all came clear when he got on the 24K because he actually started sleeping and able to dream. So he calls it his dream juice. And my other sons have followed suit, the same ones that had ADD, and they're having the same kind of results. So my husband, he most recently got results with shingles by taking a whole can of Classic in 24 hours. I'd heard about that, and I said, well, why not? Let's try it. And he did, and his pain went from an 8 to a 1. And then a couple days later, he just kept taking like 3 scoops in each shake twice a day, and within 5 days, I believe, the pain was completely gone and hasn't returned. He also just recently got his blood work done for an insurance exam, and it came back preferred and A+. And that's the second time he's had these tests done, the same kind of rating since he's been on the Relive. Before he was on the Relive, he had a fair rating. So we're very happy about that. For myself, I got results with hot flashes and night sweats and perimenopause issues. I also had results with adrenal burnout and night blindness too. My big story, I guess, is our business story, though, is that when we came in at the top profit level, little did I know at the time that my husband, 7 months later, was going to be forced to put himself on unemployment and stop making a house payment, and our house went into foreclosure. Long story short, around second time around applying for our loan modification, the bank saw that my Relive income had increased $100 a month each month to the point that was our house payment. And we saved our house the morning of our sheriff sale. So I know God's not late, but oh my goodness. A year later, we became debt-free except for our home. My highest income's been over $4,000. I average about $1,500 a month, and we just returned from a fantastic trip from Relive in Cancun, Mexico. So we are just so thankful for Relive, and we will just always be taking these products.
There you go. Wow, all kinds of results. With 10 kids, you've been a busy mom. And you mentioned OCD. Some of the people don't know what OCD is. Why don't you just mention what that is and what happened?
Oh, she was, they're adamant about certain things in certain ways. And she would have me put her food in the freezer after I would cook it. And she would, even when she was first started taking the Relief, she made sure that her color of her cup color, was the same color as her straw. The cans had to be in order of what, when I gave it to her in what way. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They were just very adamant about things being their way, in a certain way. So.
And how's Shaylin doing today?
Oh, she's doing great. Yeah, she doesn't have any more. Like I said, if she gets off her shakes, she gets kind of bossy again and just tries to tell us what to do. But she straightens up pretty quick. Yeah, she's doing great.
That's wonderful. Cindy, thank you. Appreciate you coming on and sharing actually just part of your story. You've had so many results in the family, but thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Well, I have one more guest for you, and what a pleasure. I get to introduce you to Kathy Bloom. Patty and I absolutely love Bob and Kathy Bloom. A couple of people who have a real heart to make a difference in the lives of other people, who have a deep love for the Lord and a deep love for making a difference in other people's lives. And they've had some great results with Relive. They've reached out and made a difference for a lot of people, built a business with Relive. And Kathy, we'd love you to come on and share.
Well, thanks, Bill. What an incredible call tonight. I'm just sitting here like almost in tears, listening to all these stories, and and you said in the very beginning, Bill, that our products don't cure anything, but look what they can do. And so I am so thankful that I'm part of that group tonight. I've been on the product for 17 years. Because of being paralyzed with polio, I struggled with muscle weakness, cramping in my legs so bad that sleeping was very, very difficult, and I woke up every single day with a headache from age 7 on. And then as I got into my late 30s and early 40s, those headaches had turned into very severe, frequent migraines. I mean, mine were coming one right after the other. I barely had a day in between. And my neck became very, very stiff. Just like it had when I'd had the polio. In fact, I actually made a call to my mother and I said, I have polio again. And she said, oh, no, you can't get polio again. I said, well, guess what? I do. Because all the symptoms were just so much like my hands and feet were numb, my joints were inflamed with excruciating pain. I had digestive issues. I had a tremendous amount of brain fog. And just all kinds of things were happening. And sleeping was really almost impossible. And I was tripping, I was falling, my balance was off. And I had, at that point, we started going to doctors. And this was when I was just 39, 40 years old. And it's hard to even tell this part of the story because I went to doctors for 20 years and nobody had an answer for me. They had all kinds of misdiagnoses, all kinds of medications, all kinds of surgeries. My spinal cord, my back looked like it had been mangled in an automobile accident. And I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in every joint in my body. And all kinds of things were happening over this 20 years. But doctors were like, no, we think you have this, we think you have that. But here, I know this medication is going to help you. And I was like, no, you don't know what's wrong with me. So I skipped over to the nutrition field. But guess what? I sometimes took, this is ridiculous, but I sometimes took 60 to 80 supplements a day. I was so desperate. And I know God had not forsaken me. And I knew there was going to be an answer someday, somewhere, but I had no idea it was going to come in a powder in a can. But anyway, finally, after collapsing and not being able to walk at all my muscles were gone. Found a doctor who very quickly, after doing many, many tests on my spinal cord and so forth, said, you have post-polio syndrome. And yes, all the symptoms of your polio have returned. And guess what? They're just going to continue to return. And every time you use the muscle, it's going to deteriorate permanently, and there's no way to bring it back. And he said, the only thing I have to offer you is a wheelchair or a scooter. You may choose which one. I thought, great choice. And then he said, rest. And he said, just remember, every time you use your muscle, part of it's going to deteriorate permanently. And I knew that he knew what he was talking about, and I had no idea where we were going to go from here. But fortunately, somebody cared enough about me when they found out I had post-polio syndrome, brought me to a meeting where there was a medical doctor who had used the product for 5 years. His wife had been dying of lupus, got on our product, and went into remission. And she's been in remission 21 years today. And so I listened, and I saw people with post-polio been on the product 8 months, and they had such amazing results, and just all kinds of other stories I heard. But I was very reluctant because of all the money I spent on all the other supplements. And but I knew that this doctor was telling me the truth. And so I said to him, I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 90 days. And Bill, I didn't know at that time, that's all he wanted. And so I got on the product, and within the first month, I had energy that I had not had in years and years. Now, I want to tell you this, I'm a type A survivor, and nobody knew that I was lacking energy. I had a great facade. I was a women's speaker, did women's retreats. I worked for a book publisher. I traveled the country. And people, where I went, they had no idea that most of the time in my hotel room, I was probably pacing the floor at night with a severe migraine and not being able to sleep. But anyway, I got on the product, and I remember the first night I slept through the night, I thought I'd been drugged. And I said to my husband, what happened? What, did I take something that I wasn't supposed to take? I mean, what happened? And he said, well, honey, you just slept through the night. You took your last Relive shake at 9 o'clock. You went to sleep at 9:30, and you didn't wake up till 6:30. And I was like, really? You think this is Relive is doing this? And so then I knew that this powder in a can was really, if I stayed disciplined and stayed on these products, and I did, and I can tell you today, 17 years later, that I am 90 to 95% symptom-free of all those things that I share with you, and many, many other things. And I'm not in the wheelchair. I'm not in a scooter. Don't even own one. And I think there was a gal in here that she was so excited she turned 70. Well, I was excited when I turned 70. A few years ago, and but I'm just as good as I was then, and how thankful I am the quality of life that Relive has given to us. And we were very, very busy, as Bill said, in ministry. My husband was on staff with Promise Keepers at the time. I was doing women's retreats. I was working with him with Promise Keepers, and we didn't have any retirement income, or very little. When you work with a nonprofit organization, you don't get retirement. And so I heard all these wonderful business stories, and it was like, but we don't have any time. How can we do this? We had all the excuses, and yet I had such a passion. I worked with women who had issues, and I could help them with everything but their health. And all of a sudden, God provided this wonderful product, and I'm saying I don't have any time. And so we did come into the business, and fortunately for us, there was a conference just 2 weeks later. We went to a conference, and we saw this company up front, and we saw the leaders, and we met so many ambassadors, and it was like, we're your team. We're not going to do your business for you, but we're your team, and we will help you learn how to do this business. And they said, you know what, you only have to talk to one person at a time because they have a sphere of influence that you don't have. And so it's like, oh, you're right. Okay, we can do this. And we started earning a profit the very first month, which blew us away. And our income just started rising and rising, and $2,500 a month consistently, $5,000, $7,000. And it was like, oh, my goodness. So in the process of that happening, I retired from publishing. I didn't retire from speaking, but retired from publishing, and then we became ambassadors, and we always felt like we were an ambassador. That title really didn't mean anything other than that we had reached a lot of people. But anyway, we're still in ministry today, even at our ages. My husband leaves at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and he has a ministry called Man for Me, and reaching men with addictions and coming out of incarceration. And we just have a life today, Bill, that is just keeps going and going and going. And we are so blessed that when we're consistent on our product, which we are, believe me, we have energy, we can do whatever God wants us to do. So we are so blessed for what this company has offered us, a business opportunity that's changed our lives, and also a product that has changed our lives. So we'll be around for a long time.
There you go. Yes, and you won't just be around. You two are a bundle of positive energy just oozing out of you, just sharing the love of the Lord to people all over the place. I just absolutely love you guys and appreciate your ministry. that you guys are just constantly reaching out and making a difference in other people's lives. And Relive is a ministry of itself. I mean, a lot of people who are involved in ministry, you wonder, well, can they do Relive? And I guess you can answer that, can't you?
Absolutely, they can. Yep. It's an add-on, Bill, and it's a very incredible add-on that we can offer to people because people in ministry are exhausted, and they don't make a lot of they have financial issues, and they have health problems, and we can offer them a great gift like was offered to us. So yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Great. And when you started the business side of it, I mean, how did you begin to share Relive? I mean, you guys were going through, you had lots of stuff on your plate, you had a busy life, and you had lots of health issues. So how did you start sharing Relive?
Well, that's very interesting because of I was pretty silent with most people, and now I wish I had been more whiny and told people how bad I felt because I think our business could have grown within a week. But I'll tell you a little story, and I know you don't have much time, but there was a man who sat behind us in church, and one day after I'd been on the product for just 6 weeks, he came up. It was an older gentleman, came up, just was sobbing. And I said, JT, what is going on? He said, our prayers have been answered. Our prayers have been answered. I said, what? And he said, you are well. You are well. And I said, what do you mean I'm well? He said, we have watched you for years. Bob having to help you up sometimes to stand up when you're singing, and you're always rubbing your neck. You're always holding on. And we noticed many times that your eyes just looked, like you were really struggling with a headache or something. And he said, you don't ever rub your neck. Bob doesn't have to help you. You jump up. And he said, what is going on? And I knew then that was God's signal to us, Bill, that we needed to share this product. And, of course, he became one of our customers. So it was really easy to get him on the product. But Bill, we just asked God to show us who do we go to next? Who is it that, and we made our list. We did what we were supposed to do. We got people on the calls. And, at airports, I'd be on calls at the airport and hotels. I mean, it was just amazing how we built our business. But we found the time to do it because we were passionate. Just like you and Patty, you had such great results, and you become passionate about this, and you can't be quiet. You have to share it. So that's what we did.
Yeah. Well, ministry is all about having a heart for others.
Absolutely.
That's what you guys have, and what you've had your whole life in the ministry you've been involved in the ministry of Relive. It's just caring so much about other people that you're willing to get out of your comfort zone and reach out to people and let them know that there's an answer here that may be the answer to their prayer.
Absolutely.
Well, Kathy, thank you so much. I owe you a debt in many ways for this tonight. Thank you. I so appreciate you, too.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for joining us on our call.
Oh, you're welcome, Bill. You be blessed. Thank you.
You too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everyone, that's going to do it for tonight. Oh, wow, I love these Relive calls.